Do I see our list of attendees?
I don't.
It's on the, if you go under attendees, it is on the left panel. So there are currently 4 attendees.
And 3 of those are the team for the 2 items that we have on the agenda, and the 4th one is Sarah Lewis.
Okay.
Hi, Sarah.
She's not able to speak.
We have the power to mute her.
So, can we get George on one of these?
Oh, Michael.
No comment.
Okay. Okay.
I think we're all ready to go there, Michael.
Okay, let's go. It's 6:01 p.m. It is March 26, 2020. This is the regular scheduled meeting of the Somerville Planning Board. We are meeting for the first time electronically, or I guess over video conference and video chat, based on the governor's emergency orders and state of emergency that authorizes municipal boards to meet remotely like this. I'm Mike Capuano. I'm the chair of the planning board. With me is Joe Favaloro, Jerry Amaral, Dorothy Kelly Gay, and Amelia Aboff. We've got a number of items on the agenda tonight. We've got 74 Middlesex Ave and 845 McGrath Highway. We have 2 different applications and hearings on that site. Do we have legal notices for Joe for either of those, or?
I have them.
Okay.
You want me to read
We
them?
also have, I'm just going to go through the agenda first. So we're going to also talk about the other business amendment of the planning board's rules and regs of procedure. So I'm going to ask Joe Favaloro to ask to read the legal notices into the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Somerville Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 26, 2020 at 6 p.m. at the Somerville High School to consider the following pursuant to MGL 40A in the Somerville zoning ordinance. The cases are 74 Middlesex Ave and 845 McGrath Highway. Applicant and owner 845 Riverview LLC, care of McDermott, Quilty and Miller LLP, seek a time extension to a planned unit development, preliminary master plan, PUD, PMP, approved on April 15, 2018 to develop a transit-oriented mixed-use development in 2 buildings, with relief granted for an increase in building height of 147 feet to allow for 180 hotel rooms, an increase in building height to 235 feet to allow for 215 residential units, 9,472 square feet of ground floor restaurant and retail space, and parking relief to provide 293 structured parking spaces, assembly square mixed-use district, Ward 1. Second one again is 74 Middlesex Ave and 845 McGrath Highway. Planning Board 2018-09, Extension 1. Applicant and owner 845 Riverview LLC, care of McDermott, Quilty and Miller LLP, seeks a time extension to a special permit with site plan review approved on May 15, 2018, develop a transit-oriented mixed-use development on 0.85 acres under an approved PUD PMP to create 368,030 square feet in 2 buildings, one of 147 feet high containing up to 180 hotel rooms and the other 235 feet high containing up to 215 residential units supporting by 9,472 square feet of ground floor restaurant retail space and 293 structured parking spaces. Assembly Square Mixed Use District, ASMD, Ward 1. Development review applications, submitted materials, and other documentation may be reviewed online at https://www.somervillemass/government-department/ospcd/planning and zoning/reports and decisions, or in person in the Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development, 3rd floor, City Hall, 93 Highland Ave, Somerville, Mass. Interested persons may provide comments to the planning board at the hearing or by submitting written comments by mail to Planning and Zoning Division, 3rd floor, City Hall, 93 Highland Ave, Somerville, Mass. 02143, or by email at planning@somervillemass.gov.
Thanks, Jeff. Does anybody have a preference on which goes first? I think we should bring up the rules and regs first, since that's substantive.
I have no problem with that.
Okay. Is Dan gonna do a presentation, or are we just gonna discuss?
I can. So this is Dan Bartman, Senior Planner with the Planning and Zoning Division. You can all hear me, I'm assuming.
We can.
Okay, so just so that to put this in context, we made very similar changes to the existing rules and regs of the ZBA to adopt new fees that reference the permitting system of the new zoning ordinance a couple meetings ago. So they've adopted a very similar fee schedule. And then in the next section are proposed changes to how minor site plan approval works. And we can take each one of those up one by one if you wish. So these changes are to your existing rules and regs. We do anticipate a complete rewrite that is 100% addressing the new code, but for the meantime, like, we need to be able to accept applications based off of the new fee schedule and process things appropriately. So we needed to amend your existing rules and regs for the time being while we could do a complete rewrite for the new ones.
Let me open it up because I can only see the first. I wanted to talk about the second page if we could. Let me see if I can grab this in a bigger format.
I'm happy to scroll as much as you need to. Let me know.
That's fine. I just wanted to, go to the second page. That's what I was looking for on my other tab. Previously, for minor site plan approvals, if I remember correctly, it was always at the discretion of the planning director, but if the planning director in his or her discretion be beneficial for the members of the planning board to discuss something that could have been approved administratively, that was written into our rules and regs. I remember that happened a number of times for lot line adjustments and lot splits, that even though it could have been approved by the director as an administrative action, because those tended to raise the concern of some neighbors in certain projects. It was the planning director's discretion to bring it before our board so we could discuss it and talk with the neighbors about ways that we could mitigate and condition some of those minor projects. So I'm wondering if that is not the case under the amended rules and regs that I'm looking at here. It doesn't look like it is.
It's not here. They're handled a little bit differently. Any kind of subdivision activity under the old ordinance could have been handled through minor site plan approval. The new code defines subdivision as the act of dividing land that also causes a new thoroughfare to be created. So that is not included in this list. It's just moving lot lines around, dissolving them, or adding a new lot line between two lots. So most of these will always be only between two lots. We certainly could do that. That if the planning director felt that one of these activities was causing an issue or an impact, that they could kick it back up to the planning board. That text would be easy to write. The new items are 4, 5, and 6. The intent of the new ordinance is that frequently buildings, so the permitting process for buildings takes place earlier in the overall design process of an entire building now compared to the old ordinance. So developers will frequently not know the layout and design of outdoor cafe seating, all of the commercial signage that will come later with the future tenants, and other small details like awnings, entry canopies, and the actual design of storefronts or lobby entrances. So we proposed that you adopt language to allow those to be handled through minor site plan approval with by the planning director, subsequent to that, because the whole building will get site plan approval by your board beforehand, and then these minor things that come down later on once the building gets tenanted. The proposal is for them to be able to be handled administratively.
I mean, that makes sense to me. I'm trying to think of the commercial signage issues that we had. I think one of them was, Joe, I think you remember this one, the Holiday Inn, and the modification of their signage. They wanted something that was 1.5 times bigger than what we ultimately allowed, because if I remember correctly, both the neighbors and staff had some concerns over that. So I don't mind having the ability of the director to bring it before us if he or she thinks it's or thinks it might generate neighborhood concern, or not. I mean, if it's something that might generate concern or might be beneficial for this board to talk about, I don't see a problem with having it come before us again. It could be very well that we think it's fine, just like the director would. But the opportunity for this board to review it if the director thought it was appropriate, I think, is something that should stay within our rules and regs.
Kind of on a related note, if I may, Mr. Chairman, the old ordinance had a lot of leeway in, like, for instance, the size of a sign that could be permitted by special permit. A lot of, like, the whole previous setup was special permit based. You cannot build a sign that does not meet the dimensional standards any longer without getting a variance. So site plan approval is always about confirming that something is compliant with the ordinance. So none of these signs would ever not be compliant. So I do want to set the table essentially. I'm not refuting anything you just brought up, but non-compliant signs, non-compliant outdoor seating, any of those things on this list that are not compliant would have to go get a variance from the zoning board.
Okay.
So
Anybody
to
else?
address your item, I'd probably add a short piece of text in section D that says the director of planning and zoning shall serve as the decision-making authority for all minor site plan approvals. I'd add a second sentence that said that the planning director, at their discretion, may elevate any minor site plan approval to the planning board for full review, and then that would address your concern.
That's fine. That works.
Yeah, which is basically what we had before. And I would like to keep that discretion because of things like lot splits, lot mergers, even if it seems to be pretty ministerial.
Yep.
It could not be. We got sued over a lot line issue.
Yep. So I would say I will write a very close version of that and you can approve that language. But for the sake of the record, it would read that the director of planning and zoning may elevate any minor site plan approval application for a full review to the planning board at their discretion as a third sentence. So that acknowledgement of that verbally could allow you to move forward today, and then I would send you the text and you could approve it electronically.
How does the board feel on that?
I'm fine with
that.
it.
Me too.
Well, then I'll.
Can I ask one other question?
Yeah.
Would we ever be in the position to have already conditioned any of the items in A 4, 5, or 6 during the initial permitting stage, even if those items weren't yet fully fleshed out or submitted? And if so, how would this interact with those conditions?
Yes, all of these items themselves require site plan approval, but the building that they would, be related to that was issued its site plan approval in the past would have given you the opportunity to establish a condition relating to the signs or the seating or any one of these components that's listed in number 6. So anytime they would, let's use outdoor cafe seating as an example. So if they permitted a building, you attached a condition about outdoor seating operations or something like that. Then when they came back with the site plan approval application for the outdoor seating, they would have to abide by that previous existing condition, even though this was processed 100% by the planning director and approved by the planning director. The planning director is even allowed to attach conditions to that later approval to make sure that they line up with the previous one for the entire building. So the answer to that question is yes.
Thank you, Dan.
Anybody else?
Yeah, my quick question about the 4, 5, and especially 5. We've had, I think the change in the language would be great, but also we've had many issues, as you mentioned, with signage throughout the city. I'm not referring to anything with the planning staff in particular. It's more of an enforcement issue than anything else, but I think changing that language would work well.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate that in Article 10 has 12 or 14 different signs called out by type, just like the code calls out different building types for different districts. And each sign type has a number of dimensional standards and requirements for how the signs work. So there's much, much more detail in the new ordinance compared to the old code, which just gave a square footage that was allowed and then could be increased by special permit. So there's a lot more specificity and a lot more inability to do something outrageous compared to what the code wants without having to get a variance. So there should be less problems like we used to experience under the old ordinance.
All right.
So I don't know if this
Sounds
is
good.
a motion to formally adopt these revisions with the amended language, but I'll move to do it.
Second.
Second by Dorothy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you, Dan. Is there anything else that you want to talk about on the rules and regs right now?
No, I do. I'll just bring up something I said earlier, is that I am in the middle of writing a brand new from the ground up, just like I did for the zoning ordinance rules and regs for your board. In future meetings, we'll append, put that as other business, and slowly, if we remain remote, we can slowly go through those and take your feedback and adjust them as necessary. But we are rewriting those from the ground up, and I anticipate those to happen across some subsequent meetings, probably more than one. Other than that, I have no other business.
Thanks very much, Dan.
Thank you.
Rebecca, do you want to talk about the 2 Middlesex Ave projects?
Certainly. So there are 2 projects coming before you. They are both related. The first one, the PB 2017-27 EXT1, is an extension for the PUD PMP that was approved granted on April 5th, 2018. The project PB 2018-09-EXT1 is for the subsequent site plan SPSRA approval that was granted on May 15th. Both of these are brought forward as extensions to maintain the as extensions that are allowed under the zoning that governs the Assembly Square district, in order to maintain the permissions that are granted. I think that the attendees that are here to speak on that. They can, if there's an interest from the board.
Yes, please.
I will unmute them. They can all speak as of now.
Good evening. I don't know if you can hear me. This is Attorney Joe Hanley from McDermott, Quilty and Miller.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. Just to introduce you, I have the development team on the phone with me. Ed Doherty, who is the managing member and the principal of 845 Riverview LLC, as well as my associate, Nick Zazula. We're from McDermott, Quilty and Miller, and we had the pleasure of working with this board and on behalf of our client on the PUD process and master plan process for the approvals of the hotel and the residences at this site. And as Rebecca indicated, we've been working with staff. We submitted a letter to the board requesting an extension under the regulations before the coronavirus crisis. And so we appreciate your making the time to have us here tonight, requesting a continuance in order for this project and this site to remain enforceable and in play for the development that you approved. My client has secured financing, and the financing is, of course, subject to the permit remaining enforceable. The other piece is, since we were approved, we had started with construction drawings. We paid the full building permit fee in advance to the city of Somerville. And we went to the market to talk to partners to partner with us, which was always contemplated. And our partner that we're in contract with, Edge Technologies, is pursuing a use change, which has not been processed yet with the planning board, but is conditioned upon us being able to keep these current permits in place. And so we are respectfully asking for a year to do that so that we can proceed. And that's it. Ed, I don't know if you want to say anything, but Mr. Doherty's here too, if you have any questions. And again, thank you.
I'll just say that when we did go out looking for a partner, some exciting things happened. One of them being that Kendall Square filled up and Assembly Square became an attractive place for office and life science. And with the partner that we brought on, Edge Technologies, they have an exciting use for the property, which would be, we're proposing a net zero office building that would be a hybrid of life science and office. And, we're in the process of getting those approvals now. However, I'm contractually obligated to them to extend the permits for the existing use. And I'm also, it's with my bank as well that they want to see these extensions in place. And with this being granted, it really allows us to bring forward this office use, which I think the city would find a lot more palatable and would be a lot more excited about, as well as the board. So that's why we're here tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is there any discussion by members of the planning board at this point?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I for one, I'm thrilled. Only because if you remember when this was before us, I just went on and on and on, calling for the use that they will be bringing forward at a future date. That's what I thought we should have done then, and I'm glad I'm going to be able to get there now.
So
I remember that well, Mr. Favolaro.
so Joe was right.
He was. I have to admit it.
I like hearing that.
I'm glad the stars aligned. That's all that really matters.
Yep.
I think we all are too. I'll share in that sentiment.
Yes, absolutely.
Anybody else?
One question, in the staff report, it was noted that it was, the extension was in part due to difficulty meeting the conditions of the previous permit. Are there any specific conditions? I just don't have the background on it, and I'm curious if there's
I'm happy to
anything
address
that
that. Yeah, I'm happy to address that question. In both cases, I think that I'm happy to have the applicant speak as well, but the materials that were submitted indicated that, especially with the change in use from a residential to an office use, there were process-oriented questions that were related to that shift in use. So the process of bringing another application forward, which is more in line with what the city and the community expects down there, is what has caused some of the delays. And staff is supportive of that, both for the fact that the team has shown a good faith effort to try to meet all of the conditions while still pursuing a project that is more aligned with what the city wants to see down there.
Thank you for the clarification.
Or anything else that anybody wants to discuss on this? It is a public hearing, so I don't know. For some reason, I can't see the full list of attendees. I see 11, but when I'm scrolling, I only see the folks that are up on the.
Currently, Mr. Chair, from my panel, I'm able to see that there are 7 people that are considered staff. That
Okay.
includes Charlotte, who's running the meeting, and then the board itself, as well as myself.
Yeah,
And then
okay. Something's just
attendees.
changed the way I can view things, so.
We can
Is
work
there
on that.
Sure.
All right.
Is there anybody
Chair
listed as an?
I made you an organizer as just a point of clarification. I made you an organizer, and that changes your permissions of what you can see, but now you can see the list and names of attendees.
Okay, that's great and helpful. Thank you. Is there anyone who's listed as an attendee who has not yet already spoken? I mean, I'm going to open it up for public testimony, but it looks as though everyone who's on this is either staff, a board member, or an applicant, or a representative of the applicant. But I will anyway. So at this time, I'm going to open up this hearing for public testimony to speak in support of the application.
One moment, Mr. Chair, can we do 2 separate votes, one for each one of the projects? So let's go with the PB 2017-26 or 27 first, please.
Sure. Open it up for the one that Rebecca just referenced. For anyone that wants to speak in favor of the application. Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the public hearing and open it up to anyone who wants to speak in opposition or otherwise express concern for the individual application before us right now. Seeing and hearing none, I will close that portion of the public hearing and take up the next agenda item, the next application, which is what for the record, Rebecca, please?
This is PB 2018-9-EXT1. That is the SPSRA that is subsequent to the PUD PMP. Did you want to take the vote on the PUD PMP first, or did you want to take them sequentially after discussion?
After discussion.
Okay.
So is there anybody that wants to speak in support of this particular application that has not already done so? Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to close that portion of the public hearing and open it up to anyone that wants to speak in opposition or express concern for this particular application. Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to close that portion of the public hearing and reopen it for discussion by members of the planning board for both of these applications. Then we will take 2 separate votes. Does anyone have any further discussion on either of these applications or these requests?
No.
Okay. In that case, let's take up the first agenda item, which I wish I had the number in front of me. I don't. Rebecca, could you give me the number one again, please? I'm sorry, I can't toggle between these terribly well.
My apologies, Mr. Chair. That is PB 2017-27-EXT1. That is the planned unit development preliminary master plan time extension.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved
Second.
Second by Dorothy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You opposed? No. Thank you. Next one is, I can read it now. Thanks, Rebecca. I think it's PB 2018-09-EXT1. So does anyone have any discussion on this before we move for a vote? Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Dorothy,
Seconded.
seconded by Amelia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. That is all of the items that we have on the agenda. I am going to ask if I could, Rebecca, if you could address the next few meetings that we will have. I expect they will be web-based.
At
Thank
this
you.
point,
Just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Good luck.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this point, there has been an announcement from the mayor's office indicating that City Hall and all other city buildings will be closed through the month of April. So at this point, we expect the next two meetings, that would be the April 9th, 2020 and April 23rd, 2020 meetings to be held virtually. It's still an open question as to whether the first meeting in May, that would be the May 7th meeting, whether that will be virtual as well, or whether we will be back in person for that meeting. I will have updates for you as soon as we have them.
Do we have updates on, well, I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything. I know that everything has been put on hold based on our attention to the state of emergency and remote meetings. I know the Board of City Council and their committees have been, I think, struggling to get this technology up as well. So I think there are a couple of things that are still kind of in the works, in the backlog of public business, which I don't know if we need to address right now, but I'm happy to open it up for discussion if anybody wants to speak.
I'm happy to.
Go
ahead.
Excuse me to interrupt. It's just you let Jerry and myself know. In fact, I mean, there's a supposedly an appointment council meeting for the 1st. So I don't know when the council meets after that. So this could be Jerry and I's swan song, as they say. But no, I'm just curious. But you keep me in the loop. You keep Jerry in the loop as that relates to that. I'm not, it is what it is.
I will say that the counselors are working diligently to move to this new platform and are trying as exactly the same as we all are to provide good service to the community while adapting to the new world that we're living in. To the best of my knowledge, they're going to be going forward with all due consideration with all of the new items that are on their agenda, including interviewing and hopefully confirming new members for this board.
Yeah, good.
And I'll share new information the minute I have it.
That's fair. Hey, just one point of procedure, if I could.
Sure.
Obviously, as on my board, on my advisory board, I've been going to the virtual, the remote meetings. The MWRA Board of Directors had one a week and a half ago, and they had a legal opinion, or at least their own legal staff, that said all votes should be, in fact, needed to be roll call. Have
Okay.
you had that, you may want to check that, if that's a necessity, obviously, for the planning board, but for all city agencies, that everything had to be a roll call vote.
If I may, this is Charlotte speaking. At the zoning board meeting last night, we did a roll call vote for everything just out of an abundance of caution. I assume if you would like to, we can go back and vote those items again as a roll call vote, but I will leave that up to you and Ms. Cooper.
Again, I'm just throwing it out there. I have no, if people are comfortable, I'm comfortable. I just don't want it to go back at some point in time and get hit on a procedural move.
Were the other meetings video or just voice, Joe?
Both.
Okay, I was wondering if it was, voice, you wouldn't be able to see the visual.
It was both. And the one I'm being most specific with is the MWRA Board of Directors, where they had the 11 members remotely accessing, and the legal staff made them do all the roll call votes.
Okay, I'm happy to redo those votes as roll calls, just out of an abundance of caution until we get further clarification.
I think that's a good idea.
So, okay, let's take up the first agenda item again, which was, of course,
PB 2017-27-EXT1.
EXT1. Okay.
Motion to continue.
Motion continues, seconded by Dorothy. Joe?
Yay.
Dorothy?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Amelia?
Yes.
Chair? Yes. Unanimous.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda then would be PB 2018-09-EXT1.
Move to
By
approve.
Dorothy, seconded by
Seconded.
Amelia. Joe?
Second. Oh, I'm sorry. Yay. Yes.
Dorothy?
Zoned out.
Dorothy, your vote?
Yes.
Yes. Sherry?
Yay.
Amelia?
Yes.
And the chair is a yes. It's unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep, I figured that made sense. I wasn't aware of that that advice, and I think it makes sense.
No specific direction has come down to me directly. However, I think that what I will do is make a note of it for our future meetings, and we'll make sure that we do that for all of our cases going forward.
Yeah, there's only a few of us. It wouldn't take that long.
Exactly.
All right. Does anybody have anything else for the good of the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Joe?
Roll call.
Wait.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Joe?
Yes.
Dorothy?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Hesitated. Amelia?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Thank you all. See you
Thanks,
all.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Stay safe. Wash your hands.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Joe, you need a tutorial for this to shut it
Pretty
off?
much. I hate